Lesson 1-4 is multiply fractions. Okay? It says the art teacher gave each student half of a sheet of paper. Then she asked the students to color 1/4 of their pieces of paper. What part of the original sheet did the students color? And you can solve this in any way you choose. So, what did you do? So here, we're going to first split that paper in half because we know that each student only got half of the paper. So let's say this is what the students got. Okay? Good, good. So now we want to take that and we want to split that into fourths, right? So, and the teacher asked them to color to color 1/4 of their paper. So we're just going to color 1/4 of that paper. So I'm just going to go like this so you can see it. Now the question says, what part of the original sheet did the students color? So yes, it's 1/8 because if we make the other half of the sheet look just like the rest of it, then how many rectangles do we have altogether? We have 8. And how many of those are colored in? One of them. So this is 1/8 of the original sheet. Did you hear what I said? I said 1/8 of the original sheet, right? Here she says, it says, she gave the kids half the page, right? She gave the kids half of the page, and she wanted them to color 1/4 of their paper, right? So we're coloring in 1/4 of their paper, right? And how much was their paper? 1/2, right? So their paper was 1/2. So if I have 1/4 of, what does of in math mean? Multiply. Right. So if we have 1/4 of, that's 1/4 times the paper, that's 1/2. And now we have a multiplication problem. And so the answer was 1/8, right? The answer was 1/8. How did we get the 1/8 from this? What do you think? So to get that 1/8 with this multiplication problem, all we had to do was multiply our numerators and multiply our denominators. All right, example 1 is multiply fractions, and we want to find 3/4 times 4/9. 3/4 times 4/9. And first, before we do the math, we're going to show it using pictures so you can see why things happen, okay? All right, so remember, we said, what word tells us to multiply? Of, right? So here, if I rewrite this, if I write this as 3/4 of 4/9, this is what tells me what I'm going to start with, okay? So we're starting with the 4/9 because we want 3/4 of that. Does that make sense? So when we start with the 4/9, here's my 9 pieces of a whole. And how many of those do I need to color in? 4. So we're going to start with 4/9. So now we want 3/4 of that, right? So here I'm going to show 3/4 over here. How many of these do I need to color in? 3. So there's 3/4, right? So if I want to put these together so that I can show that I only want the fourths of those, 3/4 of those, when I put them together, yellow and blue make green. So here, how many of those green ones are there? No, 12. See, 3 times 4. So this is 12 of them, right? So there's 12 of the greens out of how many in the total? 36. Very good. 12 out of 36. So there's my answer, right? But now I can simplify it, yes? So what can I divide into 12 and 36?
4.
I could do better than 4. If I could do better than 6. 12. Very good. So let's divide 12. Divide by 12. And here we end up with 1/3. Now, you don't always have to draw pictures, okay? Now, so here we're just going to do the math, the multiplying with the math, okay? Now, on the first exam, the example we just did, we simplified at the end, okay? I want you to get used to simplifying before you multiply. So we want to simplify before, make sure you write this in your notes, before you multiply. Okay? You want to simplify before you multiply. Now, how do I know what I can simplify? When you simplify, you have to say, what can I divide into 2 numbers? And the numbers have to be 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. Is everybody with me? So here, can I simplify 4 and 15? Nope. How about 3 and 5? Nope. How about 4 and 5? No, not 4 and 5. How about 3 and 15? Yes, yes I can. So, what can I divide into 3 and 15 evenly? 3. I can divide 3 in. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. So now, when we multiply straight across, we get 1 times 4 is 4. And 5 times 5 is 25. All right, so example 2 is multiply a fraction by a whole number. Okay, multiply a fraction by a whole number. And we want to make sure we write our product as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, now I'm going to show you pictures again. And we want 3/5, but we want 4 groups of 3/5. Is everybody with me? So 3/5 times 4. So we want 4 groups. So how do I show 3/5 in this picture? Good. So we're going to shade in 3 of those 5 squares so that we can show the 3/5. So here's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we want 4 groups of those. So I'm just going to repeat this. How many times? 4 times. Very good. All right. So here we have 4 groups of 3/5. Okay. Now, each one of these is 1/5, right? Each one of those is 1/5. So this is 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. Is everybody with me? So each one of those is 1/5. How many 1/5s do I have? 12. So this is how many fifths? This is 12 fifths. Is everybody with me on that? Okay. Now, 12 fifths. What's that called? That's a fraction greater than 1, or an improper fraction. Now, the question I have down here is, how do I write a fraction greater than 1 as a mixed number? So here, we divide the numerator by the denominator, then the quotient is the whole number, and the remainder is the numerator of the fraction part. And of course, the denominator stays the same. Okay? I want to show changing this to a mixed number, okay? So I'm going to put these green pieces. So let's see, let's take those and put one over here, one over here, and one over here, and one over here. And I need one more. So I'm going to put this one over here. So now, erase those. So now we've got 5/5, which is one whole, right? 5/5, which is one whole. So this is two whole number. There's my 2. And how many fifths do I have left here? So this is going to be 2 and 2/5, right? Now, the way we did that, here's what we wrote down right here. 5 goes into 12 2 times. Remainder 2, so it's 2 left over, and the denominator stays the same. Is everybody clear with that? Very good. I'm not going to ask you to draw pictures every time you do these, okay? So here we've got 5/8 times 4. Now, when we were multiplying before, we were multiplying numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. I don't see a denominator. What am I supposed to do with this? All right, very good. So we're going to put a 1 at the bottom in the denominator. So we put that 4 over 1, and now I have 5/8 times 4 over 1. Everybody good? Now, what did I tell you should do before you multiply? Simplify. What can I simplify? The 4 and the 8. Very good. And I can divide both of those by, I can do better than 2. 4. Very good. So 4 divided by 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. And now, when we multiply straight across, we get 5 over 2. And now we can change that improper fraction back to a mixed number. So how many times does 2 go into 5? 2 times, with how many left over? 1, and the denominator stays the same. So we get 2.5. If you did not simplify before you multiplied straight across, you would get 20 over 8, right? So then you could say 8 goes into 20, with how many left over? Not 1. 4, and the remainder stays the same. And then, of course, we would have to simplify here by dividing by, dividing by 4s, right? Divide by 4, and then we would end up with the same thing. Is everybody clear? All right. Now, I'm going to tell you, it is okay to simplify at the end, afterwards. I want you to get used to simplifying before you multiply, because your numbers will not always be this small, okay? And I don't want you to have to deal with multiplying big numbers. You can, but it's always easier to simplify before you multiply. Example 3 says, multiply mixed numbers. It says a recipe for a certain kind of bread calls for 2 3/4 cups of flour. Juliet wants to make a batch of bread that is 1.5 times the recipe. How much flour does she need? Okay? So the important information is what? Tell me one thing. Very good. We need 2 3/4 cups of flour. What else is important? So we want 1.5 times the recipe. Is everybody with me? And we want to know how much does she need, right? How much does she need? There's our important information. Okay? Now, it says here that she needs 1.5 times the recipe. 1.5 times. Of course, times means that we're going to multiply, right? So 1.5 times the recipe. Well, what does the recipe call for? 2 3/4 cups. Is everybody with me? So there's our multiplication problem. So we've got 1.5 times 2 3/4. Now, I can't multiply straight across on this. What do I do? So the first thing we need to do with the mixed numbers is change them to improper fractions. So let's write change mixed numbers. Make sure you write this down. Change mixed numbers to improper fractions. All right, so 1 1/2. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that's 3/2 times, this is 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3, 11/4. Now, we need to check to see, can we simplify before we multiply? Nope, can't do it. So we're just going to multiply straight across. So here we've got 3 times 11 is 33, and 2 times 4 is 8. And now what do I do with those? With this? By changing it back to a mixed number. Very good. Let's write that down. All right. So how many times is 8 going to 33? 4 times, with how many left over? 1. And the denominator stays the same. Very good. Now, because this is a word problem, what is my label going to be? You must label cups of flour. Very good. So she needs 4 1/8 cups of flour. A rectangular poster, and you guys are going to do this with your table partners. A rectangular poster has a length of 3 1/3 feet and a width of 2 1/2 feet. What is the area of the poster? We want to write the area as a mixed number in simplest form. And here, you guys, I reminded you of the formula for the area of a rectangle. Area is equal to length times width. All right, 3 minutes. So here, the important information is what? The length is 3 1/3 feet. The width is 2 1/2 feet. Very good. And we want to know what is the area, right? Did everybody write down the important information? Also important is that formula. Did you guys write the formula before you started working? Make sure you add that formula into your notes, okay? So area is equal to the length times the width. So the length is 3 1/3 times the width, which is 2 1/2. Very good. Now, before we do this calculating, we have to change those to what? Improper fractions. Very good. So here, 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1. All right, 10/3. Times 2 times 2 is plus 1. So that's 5/2. Now, can I simplify before I multiply? Yes, what can I simplify? Right. The 2 and the 10. Not the 10 and the 5? No, I can't do the 10 and 5 because they're both on top. You have to have one on the top and one on the bottom. Good reminder. All right, what can I divide into the 10 and the 2? 2. Very good. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So now, when I multiply straight across, 5 times 5 is 25. 3 times 1 is 3. And now we want to change the improper fraction to a mixed number. So how many times does 3 go into 25? 8 times. Very good. With how many left over? 1. And the denominator stays the same. Very good. Now, let me ask you this. Again, this is a word problem. This is a word problem. So, what is my label going to be? Square feet. Very good. So, 8 1/3 feet squared. Okay? Or you could write square feet. Either one is fine.